What's up, YouTube? And welcome to the Retro Cup. We've got a new meta for this week where Dark, Steel, and Fairy type Pokemon are banned. Here's a quick look at the top 20 ranked Pokemon before we dive into 10 top teams. So we've got Primeape at 1 and 3. We've got Shadow Jumpluff, Dusk Noir, Furret, Corsola, Shadow Earthring, that's a cool pick, Lapras, Dusclops, Grumpig, Shadow Machoke, Oranguru, Machamp, Emolga, Shadow Gallade, Jellicent, Aurorus, and Drifblim. So some pretty cool picks. A little bit similar to the meta that we just took a look at in the past week with the Remix Cup. However, obviously Dark and Fairy are banned, so we're not going to see quite as much of those. But without further ado, let's look at 10 top teams. So the first team that we're going to take a look at is Shadow Jumpluff, Lapras, Dunsparce. Now, this is a team that was actually pretty popular with Dugong back in the day, and that's because Jumpluff is weak to Poison, Ice, Fire, Rock, and Flying. Both of the back two Pokemon have super effective coverage into all of those. And we've got a double weakness to fighting in the back. So if you lure out a fighter with Lapras, you have super effective Psywave, first of all, to make that matchup close. Maybe potentially grab a shield. And then you have Jumpluff to punish the fighter. And then Dunsparce roams free in the back. So very strong team overall, and definitely one that I want to take a look at. I don't have a good Lapras build, which is my only problem, so we'll see. But the next team we're going to look at is Aurorus, Machamp, and Leavanny. So Aurorus is weak to fighting. It's weak to grass, ground, rock, and water. It's also weak to steel, but there's no steel in this meta. Leavanny does well into all of those, except for steel, ironically, which is not allowed. So that actually makes a very perfect core there. And then you've got Machamp as your safe swap, which also does well into most of those. And then Medi can also be used to bait out Jumpluff, which it also has super effective coverage for, double super effective for that matter. And then Aurorus can punish, and once again, Leavanny can roam free. Sorry if I sound sick, by the way. My allergies are terrible. But the next thing we're going to take a look at is Shadow Machamp, Oranguru, and Drifblim. Machamp, as a fighter, is going to struggle against your ghosts. It's going to struggle against your poisons. Obviously, fairies are not allowed, so we have two answers. They're also going to struggle against psychic. You have two answers to ghost, poison, and psychic in the back, in a sense, because Oranguru takes resisted damage from psychic, but it also hits for super effective damage against poison. And then Drifblim resists poison, and then Oranguru resists ghost because it's double resisted on the normal and single super effective on the psychic, so it single net resists on the ghost, and then Drifblim hits super effective damage on the other ghosts as well as the psychics. The next thing we're going to take a look at is Ghost double normal. It's pretty simple. You got an ABB style team where you bait out a fighter with Furret, you punish it with Corsola, and then you let Shadow Earthring run free in the back. Hopefully you can grab, I don't know, a shield in the mid game if they give you enough of an energy lead. But yeah, pretty straightforward team there. The next team is the exact opposite of that. So we've got Fighter double Ghost, where you try to bait out a normal with Dusk Noir, where you also have super effective coverage in Dynamic Punch, and then you try and grab a shield or flip switch. If you don't, then you can punish it with Machoke, and then Dusclops runs free, which is also why you might want to run the Shadow on this team, just because it's going to be in your closer position. The next team we're going to take a look at is Emolga, Feraligatr, and Shadow Gallade. The reason you're running the normal Feraligatr is this team is pretty glassy in general, but Emolga is weak to only Ice and Rock, but is also bad against ground types because of Thundershock and Discharge, even as a flyer, I know. But Feraligatr resists Ice and hits Rock and Ground for super effective damage, and then Gallade resists Rock and can hit Ice, Rock, and Ground for super effective damage. So very solid core in an ABC style team here. The next team that we're going to take a look at is Credilli, Grumpig, and Jellicent. Credilli is weak to Bug, Fighting, and Ice. Also Steel, but once again, Steel is not in this meta, which are all resisted on Jellicent, so a great core there. And then Grumpig as a safe swap, which is good into your Fighters and Poisons, which Credilli also kind of struggles with, as well as it has super effective coverage for Ice, which Credilli is weak to. So pretty strong ABC style team here as well. The next team we're going to take a look at is Goodra, Alolan, Shadow, Marowak, and Toxapex. Goodra only has 2 weaknesses in Fairy and Ice, well, other dragons as well, so I guess 3, but that's a neutral matchup in the dragon scenario. And then Fairy is not allowed, so we basically just have to cover Ice and then Jumpluff because it's a Fairy Wind user. So we have 2 answers to both Ice and Jumpluff in the back in Toxapex and Shadow, Alolan, Marowak. The next team is Gastron, Clodsire, and Amoonguss. Gastron has only 1 weakness, which is Grass. So, for example, if you saw a Superior on the lead, you've got 2 answers to that in the back with Clodsire and Amoonguss, because Clodsire and Amoonguss are both poison types. Clodsire also has Stone Edge for your flyers, which Gastron also struggles with. Same with Amoonguss, to be honest, but Amoonguss at least has pretty hard-hitting Astonish and Foul Play in neutral situations, and Astonish and Foul Play are going to be really into all your ghosts in this meta. The last and final team that we're going to take a look at is one that I've seen used in the Open Great League as well, and that is Dugong, Shadow Annihilate, and either Claydol or Shadow Marowak. Claydol makes a slightly better core because Dugong is weak to Electric, Rock, and Fighting, all of which are resisted on Claydol, and it also hits for super effective damage against your Electrics and your Rocks. And then Annihilate as your safe swap, which resists Rock and Fighting as well, and then can hit Ice, which Dugong doesn't do well into because of Ice Shard and Icy Wind. So we can also hit for super effective damage with counter into those Ice types as well. But yeah, that is 10 top teams for the Retro Cup. Let me know what you guys have success with, or any teams that you're interested in. Feel free to submit battles. I'll be taking submissions this week, but we'll also be taking a look at some of my teams as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.